So that is what the scene is like at this moment in the Palestinian territory of Gaza, where Israel has continued with its relentless campaign of bombarding the Gaza Strip, killing and wounding and maiming dozens of Palestinians, including in areas where Israel had told people to seek shelter. The Israeli troops and tanks have pressed their campaign against Hamas in the southern part of the enclave after having largely gained control of the now devastated northern part of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli tanks have now rolled into southern Gaza. This was a territory that, remember, the Israelis had urged all Palestinians to flee into, saying that this was a safe zone. And it is the second largest Gazan city, Khan Younis, that is now facing the intense Israeli bombardment. These are some of the most densely populated neighborhoods, and it is these neighborhoods that are being bombed by Israel. Another notable feature is the bulldozers that Israel seems to be bringing in with its offensive forces. What really is the purpose of flattening building after building is not clear. Now, the Israeli army has said that it is taking aggressive steps. The military spokesperson Jonathan Conricus has said that Tel Aviv is not trying to displace any Palestinian. He also claimed that the Israeli armed forces are not trying to move anyone from anywhere permanently. Many Palestinians fear that what is happening to them at this moment is in fact a rerun of what happened to their fathers and grandfathers in 1948, where an estimated 760,000 Palestinians had been evicted and pushed out of their ancestral lands in an event that the Arabs describe as Nakba, which of course Israel celebrates as a day of its creation. Now, the United Nations Rights Chief Volker Turk has voiced alarm that hundreds of thousands of Gazans are being confined into ever smaller areas in the southern part of Gaza. Now, the Israeli army has also released footage showing what it has said are ground and air operations against Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip. In the video footage, the Israeli soldiers are seen carrying their top-notch weapons and walking around in some of the most densely populated neighborhoods anywhere in the world, and they're reducing each of these neighborhoods to rubble. The aerial footage shows the destruction and the scale of destruction that is being wreaked on the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Now, senior Israeli military officials have admitted that for every one Hamas fighter that they seem to be killing, they are killing at least 2 civilians. Now, one of the officials has said, and I quote the Israeli official here, "I'm not saying it's not bad that we have a ratio of 2 to 1. He further added that the use of human shields is part of the strategy used by Hamas, which Israel claims is resulting in this catastrophic collateral damage. Collateral damage, remember, is a military term that describes the loss of innocent civilian life. People have got nothing to do with the violence. Now, according to Gaza officials, nearly about 16,000 Palestinians have been killed since this onslaught began. 70% of all those who have been killed are innocent women and children. And just the toll on children is just horrific. 6,000 Palestinian children have been killed since this round of violence began. And this does not even take into account the number of children and other people who've been maimed, who've had their limbs amputated. As many as 80% of the Gazan population of 2.3 million people has been uprooted from its homes, and large parts of northern Gaza and now southern Gaza are being depopulated.
احنا من غزه جينا هنا على اساس انهم قالوا لنا ترحلوا يا عم ترحلوا من غزه بلدكم فيها حرب، طلعنا من غزه رحنا على الجنوب زي ما طلبوا، لكن هاي اللي لقيناها في الجنوب ايش بدنا نسوي؟ والطار كلها اللي نزحين فيها كلها هذا لسه ما تسجلش اصلا.
The main telecom company in the Gaza Strip has said that mobile telephone services and internet connections had in fact been cut across the territory. The president of the International Committee of the Red Cross has said that she had arrived in war-torn Gaza, warning that the suffering there was simply intolerable.
We have to find solutions to this. We can't turn away from what is evidently a moral failure in the face of the international community.
Now, the United States has said that it is asking Israel to let more fuel into the Gaza Strip. Fuel which powers generators for electricity and other humanitarian aid had entered the besieged Palestinian enclave during the week-long military pause. But by and large, for the last 50-plus days, Palestinians have been denied access to food, water, electricity and fuel, essential supplies for human survival.
We had some very frank conversations with them about the need for fuel to come in, and we saw some fuel go in Friday. We saw additional fuel go in Saturday, but it's at the level of fuel that we were at before the pause began. We've made clear we want to see it back up, not just to the level of fuel that went in during the pause, but actually higher numbers than that, and are having ongoing discussions with the Israeli government about how to get there.
Meanwhile, the WHO chief has said that the Israeli army had told the United Nations Health Agency to empty an aid warehouse in southern Gaza before the ground operations in the area made it simply unusable. But the Israeli army has denied and has refuted the World Health Organization that it had asked it to empty an aid warehouse in southern Gaza within 24 hours. Now, the Israeli Defense Ministry body responsible for Palestinian civilian affairs has said that from a United Nations official, we'd expect at least that they are more accurate. And our correspondent Jody Cohen has been tracking this story very closely for us and has sent us this report from Israel. Take a look.
Behind me are 137 chairs representing the 137 hostages still remaining in Gaza. Israel says it wants to return all of the hostages and also needs to ensure that Hamas can't carry out a 7th of October style attack again, which Hamas has said it intends to do. Now, Hamas has said that the death toll in Gaza is over 15,000, and the Israel Defense Forces have now said that more than 5,000 of those are Hamas terrorists and that Hamas hides behind civilian shields. So the ratio of civilian to Hamas deaths appears to be 2 to 1. I spoke to Colonel Richard Kemp, who was in charge of the British forces in Afghanistan earlier, and he says that that ratio is actually better than the Western forces in Afghanistan and Iraq. Nonetheless, there's still concern for every civilian life lost and also for the number of people having to evacuate their homes now in southern Gaza. The IDF has published and printed a map showing hundreds of different zones so it can specifically tell people where the fighting is going to be in order to try and minimize civilian casualties and minimize the number of people having to evacuate. The White House spokesperson John Kirby has said that Israel is making an effort to protect civilians and that not many armies publish in advance where they're going to be striking. And a US team is currently in Israel to discuss these issues and also issues like restoration, governance and security for when the war does finally end. This is Jody Cohen for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.